In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a splash screen that opens automatically and then changes over and moves to the switchboard. This has been received as a request, so I'm going to try and take it fairly slowly and as accurately as possible. Now the first question is, what is a splash screen? Now if you play video games, you'll know that when you load a game there's always a screen that comes up before the game starts. That's the splash screen. It gives you information about who's written the game and some extraneous information. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to first of all create a splash screen from a form. Then we're going to create a macro that closes the splash screen and opens the form, the switchboard. And then finally we're going to set the properties of the splash screen so that it stays up for a number of seconds, and we're going to put the splash screen into the startup options. So first things first, we're going to create our splash screen. To create a splash screen you need to go to Forms and New, and in here you just go straight to OK. You don't pick any of the options here or here, you just go straight into OK and you've got a blank form. Now what you can do here is create a text label, type in CD shop or whatever, bring in some graphics, bring in some extra text, give some more information. I'm not going to bore you with the details. I'm going to set the background to white and such and such. I'm just going to pause it for a second while I do that. And here's my splash screen. I've got a text box here with CD shop in it, a little bit of a picture and some more text down here. Now I've also changed the properties of this in format, so you can see that I've turned off the scroll bars, the record selectors, the navigation buttons, the border style, the control box. I've changed the min-max buttons to none, the close button I've turned that off. So the splash screen will look in the end like this. It'll just be a white box. So I'll just close that down now. I've saved it already. Now my next step is to open the macro that'll close the splash screen and open the switchboard. So I go to Macros and New, and the first thing the macro will do, it'll close the form known as the splash screen. And the next step will be that it'll open a form called switchboard. So it closes the splash screen and opens the switchboard. So I close that now, save it, call it macro splash switch or something meaningful. That's good enough for now, and go to OK. Now my next step is to go back to the form, the splash screen that I created earlier, go into Design, and again select the properties in the little black dot here, and this time go to Event. Now I want the splash screen to stay up for 4 seconds. So on the timer here, timer interval here, I type in 4000, and that'll give me a 4 second delay, or a 4000 millisecond delay. And then on the timer, that is when the 4 seconds has expired, I want it to open or run the macro splash switch, which will close this splash screen and open the switchboard. So I close this form, save it. Now the final step here is to go into Tools, Startup, and get access to run the form known as splash screen first. So it was switchboard I think first. I'm going to change it over to splash screen and go to OK. So what should happen if I've got this right is when I start Access Up, Startup will run the form splash screen. The timer interval then will wait 4 seconds and it'll run the macro known as splash switch, and the macro should close the splash screen form and open the switchboard form. Let's give that a go to see if it works. I go to File, Open, and in my I open that up. It runs, splash screen shows for 4 seconds roughly, and then you can see the switchboard opens. So that's it. That's how you run a macro in conjunction with a form to get a splash screen up on your screen.